Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy, and welcome to another exciting video, because earlier this month I once again had the opportunity to visit Rapido's headquarters in the UK. Now, some of you may remember I headed down to Rapido earlier in the year too, where I was able to take a look at some of the stuff they have in the works, and this time around I thought initially that, well, it's only been a month or so, how much new stuff is there going to be to see? Quite a lot, it turns out. Obviously, there's lots of work going on behind the scenes on a day-to-day basis on all the various different models they're working on. So let's dive in straight away and check out some of the latest things that have arrived. So there's a lot of exciting stuff to look at today, starting off with one of my favourite upcoming Rapido locos, and I think it's a popular one with a lot of others as well. It is, of course, the SE&CR O1. Previously, I was able to take a look at the 3D printed samples to get a sense of what the model will look like, but now we have the very first running sample. Some of you may have already seen this at some of the exhibitions. I think Rapido first showed it off at Ali Pali back in March, but yeah, now we can actually see how it performs. The O1 still has a few issues to be ironed out. That is the point of these samples after all, to see how the initial design has worked and then look at whether there are any improvements that can be made before going into production. That said, already it seems like a really nice runner, as you can see here on the Rapido test track, and it's got nice pulling power too, with a decent rake of wagons behind it here. It will actually pull more than this, of course, we weren't doing a full load test here, but certainly for most modelers a train of this length is going to be great. And of course these SE&CR wagons I'm running with the O1 are also part of Rapido's range. It's almost like they planned it that way. And as if that wasn't enough, Rapido are also working on some new SE&CR wagons in the earlier light grey livery as well. I think these ones in the train here are actually the exclusive ones for Rails of Sheffield, and I'm told that you can run both liveries together, as there would have been a bit of a transition period between the two. So yeah, if you're looking for more SE&CR wagons to build up a nice freight train, this could be a really good option. But not to stray too far from the O1, this definitely looks like it's shaping up to be a fantastic release. It certainly seems to have been popular already, so if you haven't got a pre-order in yet, I'd recommend doing that sooner rather than later. I believe Rapido was saying they're hoping to have some decorated samples for these in the near future too, so maybe it won't be too long before we can really get an idea of what the finished models will look like. Obviously, with these being SE&CR locos, there's some really nice pre-grouping liveries, including of course the wonderful ornate Wainwright green versions. There's also a fair few southern liveries available too, 4 of these in total, all with slightly different variations, and then we've also got a few British Railways versions too. And as if that wasn't enough, Rapido are also doing the preserved O1 number 65, which currently resides at the Bluebell Railway. This is also the same loco they recorded for the DCC sound file, which was done last year when number 65 visited the Spa Valley Railway. Rapido also teased us with a what-if style livery based on the Bluebell's P-Class, which is sort of a blue variation on that original SE&CR livery. This was so well received that Rapido have now actually decided to put this into production, even though it never existed, but you can see why. It's a really attractive livery. So yeah, it's great to see progress on these models. I'm certainly looking forward to these being released, and I think there's a lot of other people who feel the same way too. Something I very briefly saw during my last visit was the first samples of the Caledonian railway vans. Again, these were 3D prints last time I saw them that just had some generic wheels clipped in so we could film them on the layout, but this time I was able to check out the first proper running samples, and don't these just look amazing? There's absolutely loads of details on these, including lots of separately fitted parts like the wire door handles and the metal rails below the doors here. You can see there's also metal buffers on these models too, which is a really nice touch. I was really impressed with the brake rigging too. Again, there's lots of really nice detail here, and you can see between the different vans there's variations to suit each one. Again, these are going to be coming in a wide variety of liveries, with several Caledonian Railway versions on offer. There's also a range of LMS vans too, with these being the pre-1936 versions, and then we also have several post-1936 versions as well. These vans had quite a long life, so as you would expect, we've got some British Railways versions in there as well. But even beyond that, we have some more unique versions like the NCB or the RNAD options. And finally, these might be my favourite, we have the Cadbury's livery vans too, which look really nice with that logo up there on the right. Of course, it's all well and good talking about how nice these vans look, but really we want to see them running, so naturally we paired them up with the Jones Goods. This time I was allowed to have a play with the yellow livery version, which in itself is also looking fantastic. Obviously we've got the sound profile playing on the Jones Goods here, but something I do want to specifically highlight with this model is a new feature that Rapido have been working on with the Firebox LED. Here you can see that you get a pulse of light in the firebox that syncs up with the exhaust beat. This simulates the air being drawn through and is what you would see if a real locomotive was run like this with the firebox open. This is a really cool little detail, and Rapido are planning on introducing this to some of their other upcoming locos too, which you'll see just a little bit later on. Back to wagons now, I just want to quickly show you this new design of private owner wagon that Rapido have been working on. Now, at first glance you may think this looks pretty similar to their existing 7-plank wagons, but look a bit closer and you might notice this new one actually has a completely different body. The ends are probably the biggest visual difference, with two very different styles here. But you might also notice that the new wagon is actually longer too. Even though the wheelbase is the same, the body itself has a little more length, which adds a nice bit of variety because you don't want all your private owner wagons looking absolutely identical. Now, I'm told this is all made possible due to the modular design that Rapido have created for these wagons, and you guys know me, I'm a big fan of anything that's modular. This of course means that smaller things like the buffers and the brake rigging can also be swapped out too to create lots of different variations. And potentially in the future we could see Rapido creating more wagon bodies in a similar way. It really is a very smart piece of design and makes total sense for something like private owner vehicles where it seems that no two wagons were alike. Time for another loco now, and it's another one that I think a lot of people are looking forward to. It's the Metropolitan E-Class. Now, previously I've already taken a look at the decorated samples of these, but now they've got the sound file all sorted out as well, so we can take a listen to that. One of the really cool things Rapido have done for this project is that they were able to record the whistle from Metropolitan 1 for a really authentic sound. You can see that the E-Class performs really nicely when running around the test layout too. This model does also have a firebox LED, and like the Jones goods, it also has that pulse effect that is synced to the sound decoder. The order book is now closed for these models, but you might still just be able to get a pre-order in from a retailer if you're quick. The E-Class is in production right now, I believe, with the models due to arrive towards the end of the year, so definitely good news for those who like the look of this model. There's also the first running samples of the BR fish vans to see too. These are a slightly later style of wagon in comparison to some of the others we've already looked at today, but they still pack in plenty of detail. A couple of things that stood out to me were the steps which some of the vans have, and you can also see here on the close-up that we have different styles of buffers too, and in case you were wondering, yes, they will be sprung. As you'd expect, these run really nicely too, as seen here behind the Stirling single. These fish vans were originally designed for transporting, well, fish, as you might have already guessed, but later in life some of them were repurposed for parcels traffic too, meaning they got all over the network. Some were even used for engineers' trains, which Rapido have catered for in the liveries that they're making available. This isn't all of the liveries that they're doing, but it does give you a good idea of some of the variations that they'll be offering. And seeing as we've got the Stirling single out on the test track, I really should give you a quick update on this stunning model too. Now obviously these were originally released a few years ago for locomotion models, but with this second release Rapido are also offering the low tender version for the very first time. In addition to that, they've also completely redone the sound files for this loco too. While the original sound wasn't bad, DCC sound has come a long way in the last few years, and so this all new update will bring it into line with Rapido's other sound fitted models. For example, as with the other locos we've looked at today, the Stirling single also has a firebox LED that pulses with the exhaust beat. And with the design of the GNR firebox, you can actually see this light up around the edges of the door too, which is something you don't tend to see on most models where the firebox is just modelled open. I have to say, I do like the sound of the drain cocks too. This function only plays at a slow speed, so perfect for when you're pulling out of a station. There's also a wheel flange and track creak sound as well, which can be played at slow speeds. And with both this and the drain cocks, it'll fade out once you go above a certain speed. But yeah, it's certainly very nice to both see and hear the Stirling single again, and I have to say, I'm very excited for these models to be back on the market. And so that's everything we have to take a look at today. I was able to film some more stuff which I can't show you just yet, but don't worry, there's going to be news on those things in the near future. Don't forget as well that Rapido have their own exhibition weekend coming up at the end of September too, and I imagine they'll have all of these samples and more on display so you can come and check them out for yourself. I do have to say a big thank you to Rapido though for letting me in behind the scenes, giving me access to everything they're working on, and also for letting me share so much of it with you guys. But that's going to be it for today. If you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really does make a big difference, and it means you get to see more content like this. For now though, thank you so much for watching everyone, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!